as you probably know, Land Rover is very well known for doing certain jobs very, very well. Off-roading, ruggedness, authenticity, go anywhere, the ability to do anything you ask of it. Breadth of capability is something that came around in more recent years. So as the vehicle is designed to do all those fun things that we love to do and talk about and show on our advertisements, we also realize that the car needs to do everything else very well as well. So when the Range Rover Sport was first launched, it was actually tuned around the Nürburgring racetrack so that it became a true handling car. Drives phenomenally, which you will find out in just a moment. This particular version is the flagship. It's got 510 brake horsepower. You've got Brembo brakes. You have a suspension system which will adjust 500 times a second. So no matter what you're doing with the vehicle, going over speed humps in a residential area, or if you're going around the bends pretty excitedly, you'll find the car will adapt to exactly what it needs to do. You won't feel it adapt. It will just handle very, very differently both ways. Some of our off-road connotations have on-road benefits as well. So this vehicle has a very low center of gravity because we're designed to do 30-degree off-road angles, which are quite steep. But that also translates to a handling and also lane change. If you need to do a rapid lane change on the freeway, you'll understand a very low center of gravity makes it drive very untruck-like. You don't have much of that rollover that people talk about. Our vehicles now, the Range Rover Sport and the Range Rover, are both designed to be a monocoque or a unibody, so they're made out of one piece of metal. So this whole side frame is one piece. Not only does that help rigidity, torsional rigidity, but it also helps in the case of having an accident. We've got a couple of customers that will testify to that. Aluminum is incredibly strong. It's actually incredibly good at absorbing impacts. It's 3 times better than steel, so that's why we use aluminum. You'll find the Range Rover Sport itself used to be the smaller Range Rover. It's actually an inch wider than the full-size Range Rover now. It truly is a car on its own platform, so it doesn't borrow the platform from any other vehicles anymore. It is available with 7 seats. We call it +2 seating, which is available in this vehicle as well. But you have a vehicle that will do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. You have a vehicle which is a diesel, which has a range of 658 miles on a tank of gas. And then we have the 3-litre supercharged V6 at motor as well, which seems to be one of the more popular options, with 340 brake horsepower. This particular version is the one we'll take for a drive, just so you can see that we're not your muddy off-roader so much 100% of the time. We still have that in our blood, which is something we're always going to stay strong to. They're all 4-wheel drive, maximum traction at all times, and you can understand with 510 brake horsepower that's probably a benefit. But otherwise, you're going to find this vehicle does many things much better. Jack of all trades, or breadth of capability, as Land Rover like to say. Something else I'm keen to mention. These days, people demand a lot more from their vehicle than has ever been demanded before. This vehicle has a Meridian sound system. Meridian, if you're not familiar with them, I don't blame you. Their average home sound system is $80,000. So in this case, you'll get a free car with that sound system, but its quality is impeccable. It's amazing what this car can do. 825 watts and 17 speakers, which fills the cabin quite nicely, as you can imagine. We now have options like plan view, so that you can see a 360 degree view of the vehicle's camera system. It comes from a couple of different cameras. We have a couple of front cameras, which will get rid of the blind spot, eliminate those when you're pulling out those blind junctions, and then also no longer any excuse for curbing your wheels, because as you can see, you can now look at your wheels and make sure you're not hurting those beautiful 22s. A lot of people used to put 22s on their cars, but now you can get them from factory. You'll also see we have a panoramic sunroof now available, which twinned with that black headliner is very pretty in this particular interior, which is the Pimento interior. So down here we have the terrain response. Terrain response system is a very intelligent system that basically turns me into an off-road expert, even though my off-roading ability isn't very strong. You have an automatic mode, which basically means the vehicle is going to figure it out for you, and it's going to turn you into the expert that if you're me, you're quite not. Also, you can select which mode you're upon. So dynamic driving, for those that are fancying a bit more of a spirited drive. You have your regular driving mode, you have grass, gravel and snow, and you have mud and ruts. But just to give you an idea of how this system works, on a modern day camera you have the button which will adjust different photographs. So you'll tell it if you're in bad lit situations, or you'll tell it if you're looking for a panoramic view, and the camera will adjust and make a better shot. That camera will always take a picture, but if you tell it exactly what it needs to do, it's going to take a perfect picture, and that's how this works. If you put it into grass, gravel and snow mode, for example, maximum traction, it will turn down the throttle response, so when you accelerate, you're going to feel less acceleration to allow more traction. It will turn up the traction control, it will turn up the ABS, and basically turn the car into an absolute off-road machine, and that works for all those different modes. Some of the later technology advancements will involve a little bit of safety, a little bit of security as well. So we have an SOS mode now, which is just like ringing 911 for the emergency services. And then we have a button which will put you through to a call center that will be able to get somebody out to you if you have a puncture and be able to change your tire, etc. This vehicle will also alert the emergency services if you get into an accident and fires the airbags. They'll try and talk to you, but if they can't get hold of you, they'll send the emergency services out to your location as well. So a lot of the advancements, obviously with this car, it's performance, it's 510 brake horsepower, it's luxury and refined, which you can see by a lot of the equipment that's inside and this plush interior, but also a lot of advancements in safety to look after the most important people, which is you. So now that you've seen some of the advancements in this car, we'll take it for a spin so you can get a feel of what we're talking about. The good thing about having this level of power and this level of torque, it's got about 460 Nm of torque, is that it's effortless. So if you want to drive the vehicle normally, it's a very luxurious car to drive. Now, being an SUV that weighs as much as it does but can still do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, it has a lot of get up and go. But it's easy to have that kind of engine without having it as a usable amount of power. So to give you an idea, I mentioned that the suspension adjusts 500 times a second. Well, the benefit of that isn't just off-road and speed humps, but also when you accelerate hard and the front of the car lifts, or you brake hard and the front of the car dives, that's going to stop any of that roll and any of that uncomfortableness. So basically it allows you to put maximum traction down at all times. Having a car that's tuned on the Nürburgring racetrack originally, and then has been advanced for years and years onwards. I mean, that was back in 2006. As you can imagine, we've changed a lot of other features, and a lot of other suspension components have been adjusted and made it quite the machine. You'll find it's definitely a Range Rover at its core. It's comfortable, it's soft, it's very luxurious. It gets the looks that a Range Rover deserves, but also performance-wise now we finally have the complete package. So one of my recommendations is when you get to drive your Land Rover, go over a speed hump that's a regular size speed hump as if you hadn't seen it. Pretend as if it's not there, and you're going to feel just how forgiving our suspension is and just how effortless this car makes that.